Hey guys, most people assume that anxiety comes from what you feel. You feel anxious and that feeling drives everything else. But what if that's backwards? Because if you get this wrong, you'll spend years trying to fix the wrong problem. What if the real engine of anxiety is not the emotion, but how your attention system is wired? Not what you feel, but what your mind keeps returning to. Because once you see that, something strange starts to make sense. Why worry feels uncontrollable and why trying to stop it often makes it worse. By the way, if you want to support the channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. So one of the most important insights today is this. Clinical anxiety isn't directly caused by the emotional state itself. It feels like emotion is the problem, but something deeper is driving the system. So this isn't just about feeling bad. It's about a system that's constantly tuned to detect and process threat. If you're prone to anxiety, your attention system behaves very differently from everyone else. It doesn't just react to threat, it's actively searching for it. And if your mind is always searching for threat, it will always find something. This can show up as distractibility and a tendency to lock on to anything that might be threatening. Even neutral things can get you pulled into that filter. There's also a pattern. Attention is broad and scanning at first, and then suddenly narrows and fixates on something that it thinks is important. This is called the hypervigilance loop. And when it starts, your attention stops being neutral. It becomes biased. And under stress, this loop intensifies. So anxiety isn't just thinking too much, it's looking for the wrong things over again. And inside this system, your mind produces different kinds of thoughts. But if you don't distinguish them, everything feels like overthinking. So there are three main types of thought, right? Worry, automatic thoughts, and intrusive thoughts for our discussion today. Each one plays a different role in maintaining anxiety. Worry is a central feature of generalized anxiety. It's a chain of thoughts and images loaded with negative emotion, feels hard to control. But worry isn't random. It feels like a loss of control, but it's actually a strategy. It's an attempt to solve problems where the outcome is uncertain. That's why it takes the form of what-if questions. So each one is an attempt to prepare, but instead of resolving uncertainty, it multiplies it. Because every answer just creates another question. Automatic thoughts are fast and involuntary. They appear instantly and they feel true without being questioned. They're often so quick that you don't even notice them, but they immediately shape how you feel. And they tend to be negative because they've been rehearsed over time. So a useful way to understand is this. Worry asks the question and automatic thoughts give the answer. Now, intrusive thoughts are different from these. They're unwanted, repetitive, and they often feel acceptable or disturbing, unacceptable. They can show up as thoughts, images, even impulses, and they're usually accompanied by discomfort. So they might feel alien, like they don't belong. And worry is usually verbal, it's extended, and it's perceived as realistic. On the other hand, intrusive thoughts are more imaginal, more involuntary, and more obviously irrational. But here is something critical. Worry is not resisted as strongly as intrusive thoughts are. It feels more justified, which means it's allowed to continue. And because you perceive worry as realistic, it becomes much harder to dismiss. You don't fight worry the way you fight intrusive thoughts. For example, you follow it. And this also explains something surprising. Worry often creates a stronger urge to act than intrusive thoughts do. Because if something feels real, your mind demands a response. That's what gives worry its compulsive quality. It doesn't feel like a habit, it feels like something you have to figure out. So a common belief is, I can't control my worry. It feels automatic, like it just runs on its own. But there's a contradiction here. Worry is a structured step-by-step process, which means it requires your attention to continue. And we know that worry can be interrupted. If attention is redirected onto something else, worry stops. So the issue isn't that worry is uncontrollable. It's that it keeps getting your attention, and your attention keeps feeding it. Now, this is where things go deeper. Not just thoughts, but beliefs about thinking itself. You might believe that worrying keeps you safe, or that if you stop worrying, you'll miss something important. You might also believe that worry is uncontrollable. And if you believe that, you won't even attempt to disengage from it. See, these beliefs shape your behavior. If worry feels useful, you'll continue it automatically. So the system sustains itself, not just through thoughts, but through your relationship to those thoughts. If you believe worry is helping you, you're going to keep doing it. And when worry starts, attention shifts inward, away from the external world and into an internal evaluation. This activates memory-based information that's linked to threat, which then triggers negative emotional states. And attention becomes focused on that distress. Now, as this continues, the self-focus intensifies and your attention narrows. You become more absorbed in your internal experience. And that narrowing has consequences. It reduces your ability to process information that will contradict the worry. In extreme cases, this becomes runaway worry, uncontrollable because attention is no longer flexible. And you wouldn't be thinking freely anymore because your attention would be locked. See, worry doesn't just focus on threat, it also avoids something. It keeps you thinking about fear instead of actually feeling it. Specifically, it avoids direct emotional and physical experience. So instead of engaging with imagery and bodily arousal, the mind shifts into abstract, conceptual thinking. What if becomes a way to stay at a distance. So imagery is more directly connected to emotional response. So by staying in verbal conceptual mode, worry reduces emotional intensity. This creates a reinforcement, and your brain learns that worry helps regulate distress. And anything that reduces distress, even temporarily, gets repeated. But the cost is that emotional processing doesn't fully occur. The underlying fear remains unresolved. And we know that for fear to resolve, it has to be fully accessed and processed. You have to engage with it, not just think about it. But worrying interferes with this. It could actually prevent full access to the underlying fear structure in your memory. So the emotional processing doesn't take place and the fear stays active but never fully processed. So over time, this strengthens that system. Each cycle reinforces your sensitivity to threat without resolving it. And anxiety persists not because you think too much, but because your thinking blocks resolution. Now, despite all this, worry does have a function. It's not all random or meaningless. It acts as an alarm, brings threats into awareness. It also prompts you to prepare and anticipate future situations. So in a way, it's trying to protect you. But protection without resolution just keeps the system running. Whether worry escalates depends on how threatening something seems. Now that includes how likely it feels, how soon it might happen, how bad it would be, and whether you think you can cope. When those factors are high, worry intensifies. Here's the full cycle. Worry creates arousal, which leads to self-focus and catastrophizing. That leads to more attempts to solve the problem, and when those attempts fail, the threat remains. And worry continues, and the loop sustains itself. Worry only stops when a solution is found or a coping strategy is accepted. Until then, the system keeps running. So anxiety isn't just about negative thinking. It's about a hypervigilant attention system, different types of thoughts, and beliefs about thinking itself. And until you understand that, you'll keep trying to solve anxiety at the level of thoughts, instead of the system that's generating them. If you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you do, because in the next video, we're going to go even deeper into how the system actually works and what you can start doing about it. And turn on your notifications so you don't miss it. Thanks.